Hey, what's going on, guys? So the latest F125 update is out, and this one is a pretty clean example of the kind of patch that is not trying to reinvent the whole game, but still matters a lot once you actually get into racing and settings and all the little things people run into every day. The first thing that jumps out is the Madrid change, because that is the sort of adjustment that immediately affects competition. They added Sausage Kerbs to the inside of the chicane at turn 5, and because of that, they are resetting the Madrid time trial leaderboard. That makes sense because when a track layout or a corner constraint changes, old lap times do not really tell the same story anymore. So if you were grinding time trial or trying to chase a clean lap there, this is one of those updates where you can feel the game quietly saying, all right, we are tightening this section up. Now go figure it out again. It is a small trackside tweak on the surface, but for anyone serious about time trial runs, that kind of change can completely alter braking points, line choice, and how aggressive you can be on exit. There is also a fix for the player's selected livery not showing during invitationals, which is one of those bugs that sounds cosmetic until it actually happens to you and suddenly your car is not displaying the way you picked it. That matters more than people think, especially in a game where presentation is part of the fun, and a lot of players care about the look of their car as much as the performance. So that fix is less about raw lap time and more about making the whole experience feel like the game is respecting the choices you made before the race even starts. And on the controller side, this update is a pretty big one for wheel users because it adds support for the Nacon Revosim on PlayStation 5, and it also improves how in-game rotation angle settings are applied when the base tuning setting is set to auto. That particular fix affects a bunch of Thrustmaster wheels on Xbox, including the TMX, TX, T128, T248, and T598. So if you use one of those setups, this is probably the part of the patch you care about the most. And speaking of the T598, there's another fix here that should matter to people on that wheel specifically, because they fixed an issue that prevented the LSB and RSB buttons from working correctly on it on Xbox. They also added the SF25 preset control scheme to the same wheel, which is nice because presets are the kind of thing that save players time when they just want to jump in and drive without manually sorting out every single binding. That entire section of the notes reads like the developers were paying attention to what wheel players actually bump into in real use, not just what looks good on a feature list. Racing games live and die on whether your hardware feels supported properly, and when a patch fixes button recognition, rotation behavior, and preset availability all at once, that is a pretty meaningful quality of life step for sim and semi-sim players. The split screen fixes are also worth calling out because they address problems that can really mess up local play. In some situations, player 1 could edit player two's car setup, which is the kind of issue that can turn a friendly session into a weird mess if you are not paying attention. They also fixed a bug where player 1's ERS style was not visible in one-shot qualifying, so that mode should be less awkward now too. Those are the sorts of things that do not always get the loudest reaction online, but if you have ever played with someone else on the couch, you know exactly how fast a bug like that can ruin the flow of a session. Local multiplayer is supposed to be the easy, carefree side of the game, so fixing those interface and setup problems is a good move. The rest of the patch is basically a sweep of smaller, but still useful fixes. The game now handles the distance to the pit limiter display more reliably. The wrong power unit supplier logos no longer appear when starting a new 2025 career. There are minor graphical fixes in pit lanes and garages at various tracks, and they also addressed occasional crashes that could happen when connecting and disconnecting controllers and wheels. On top of that, there are various UI and stability improvements folded in as well. That kind of a bundle does not make for a flashy trailer moment, but it absolutely matters because it cuts down on friction in the exact places where players spend their time every race weekend. Put together, this patch feels less like a giant update and more like a solid cleanup pass that focuses on the actual experience of driving, tuning, and getting through sessions without weird interruptions. So overall, this update is not about adding a huge new mode or completely changing the game. It is about tightening the Madrid circuit, fixing leaderboard fairness, making wheel support better, smoothing out split screen, and knocking out a bunch of annoying little bugs that build up over time. For a racing game, that kind of work is what keeps the whole thing feeling responsive and stable, and this patch definitely leans in that direction.